We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Hey, welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the POMcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. All right, good morning, welcome. It is Wednesday morning right here at the Palatial Central Florida studios. I hope everybody's having a good time. And before we get started, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. That's 1-800-330-7461. Again, that is 1-800-330-7461. Basically, what I was trying to do, we're 18 months into this time. These guys can provide a resource for you so you can vacation and you can make sure your vacation is exactly how you expect it to be. They can get you the same rate that you can online. They can provide a resource. Otherwise, the parks are actually who pays those guys. So see Central Florida like a local, travelandcruiseworld.com, 1-800-330-7461. Down below, you can see the podcast where you can tune into the show. Those are just some of them. We're on others as well. You can check us out by searching your podcatcher at Positively Ole Miss. Leave a 5-star review. It doesn't matter what you say. Just leave a 5-star review for me. It'll help others search the algorithm inside of the podcatcher and find the show. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you want to watch the show, you can catch us at The Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. We're on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe and hit the bell. You'll know not only that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And also, I can't recommend you could do the YouTube thing, subscription, and hit the bell enough because their notification system is by far the best out there. So you'll always know, no matter how you watch the show, you can catch it on the YouTube channel's notification. You'll always know when we're live. I mean, we're pretty consistent about it, but it is what it is. We're also on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all lowercase, all one word. Now, had an interesting take when we recorded with Bill Flowers for Talking Ball. You can hear that on Thursday. I'm not really going to get into that. If you need to hear it now, you can join our Patreon. It's on there now. Biscuits and SEC is on there now as well, all for the Patreon. But I do want to say for the Liberty game that more and more I'm thinking about this game, all in all, just does not matter. It does not matter other than the fact than getting the win. So whatever is required to do to get that win, you do. Okay? You figure out what the lowest possible point is to get that win. Now, I realize you're playing with fire here, and I realize that bad things can happen. But the wide receivers are all hurt. They all need to rest. Shut them down for a week. Treat this like a bye week. We need them for A&M more than we need them for Liberty. I mean, that's just common math. We can't wait and just try and get through to Vanderbilt because then it's too late. So this is the week we have to do this. Now, the other thing is Matt Corral is 60%, 50%, somewhere in that range. I would probably sit him this week too. For multiple purposes. This is a game that we should be able to run the football on, and they should be able to scheme up big plays. Matt Corral is extensively out of the Heisman conversation at the moment. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get back in. He might be able to get to New York. He may not win it. Now, there is a Thursday night game where he is the talk of the town, and there's a game against Texas A&M. But honestly, without those receivers and Matt Corral being healthy, those games are moot. So basically, what I'm saying is, this sounds absolutely ridiculous is do not even bother with trying to play Dontario Drummond, Braylon Sanders, or Jonathan Mingo against Liberty. Only have Matt Corral there in case of an emergency. Start Luke Altmaier in that game. And get ready for A&M. This is a game we should be able to run the ball. And if they bring it up, Luke Altmaier can throw the ball. He's 5 of 5. We saw against Auburn, he came into a tough situation and settled that game down. Ole Miss didn't win, but there was a chance for Ole Miss to get boat raced in that game. And I don't care who you are, that's the absolute truth. There was a chance to get boat raced that game. And let's see. And in doing so, he settled it down. He got things back under control. He actually set the table for Matt Corral to come back. Now, I think they called the game a little bit differently when Luke was in the game because Luke is a young guy. Because with a game plan and time to put it together, yes, they called the game differently for Matt Corral. Matt Corral is an elite quarterback. We all understand that. We all understand what is happening there. And just a second. It's called differently for Luke Altmaier, which is expected. That's what's supposed to happen. With a young guy, you call things more conservatively. You call things safer. You call things any number of different ways. And that allows Luke to have the best chance to succeed, which, is expected. It's absolutely expected. Let's see. Football. I'm loading up the press conference highlights, by the way. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Yes. And it is important to realize that there's a differentiation between those two. So whenever people look at what we do offensively now and say next year we're going to struggle because Matt Corral in there, but it's just not true. You're going to hear that narrative over and over and over again because they're going to call the game differently depending on who's the quarterback. What you're seeing with Matt Corral out there is the stuff that they were doing at Baylor with RG3 because you had a Heisman level quarterback calling the shots. So with Luke Altmaier, it might be slowed down. It might be a little bit different. It can look just like Arkansas. That's the thing that people need to realize. The offense can look just like Arkansas. This offense is about flexibility in what they do. The Baylor stuff is about how a game is called. It's about tempo, like rapid fire tempo. And you put those together, and like we said, 10 plays a game are what we call lane plays. They're going to be from the Norm Chowdhury, and they're going to be stuff that he really likes to go against that defense. It adds flexibility. Now, those can happen even with Luke Altmaier at quarterback. What I just told you can happen. Just that is not limiting on a freshman quarterback or a senior quarterback. Now, we might slow down a little bit. I understand that. But Matt Corral, there's certain route combinations and certain plays that they will not call with Luke Altmaier as a quarterback. There's a lot of stuff over the middle that they honestly are going to need to see confidence from Luke Altmaier to do. You saw that against Auburn. Everything was thrown outside the numbers or little pop passes or things like that. But they're not going to open up this whole offense, this whole special offense, until Luke Altmaier shows that he has earned the right to run it. And I don't know if he will. I don't know what's going on. But I do know that in this game against Auburn, when it was 14-3 and the starting quarterback had just went down and there was a chance to bring hope into the situation, to settle it down, to get back into the game. He drove about 50 yards down the field before Matt Corral came back. Now, they slowed it down and did all the stuff they had to do, but the offense was functioning with him at quarterback. This wasn't a David Morris thing from 1998 to where the offense just didn't look right and it was obvious a true freshman quarterback was out there. This wasn't a Zach Stout type thing at Vanderbilt where there were mistakes everywhere. He was forcing balls and he looked like he honestly was going to struggle at this level. This wasn't that. This was a true freshman that went out and did something that I don't know that I've seen a true freshman do at Ole Miss. I mean, when was the last one? Do you remember when Devontae Kincaid and Ryan Buchanan were thrust into action after Bo Wallace got hurt against Arkansas in 2014? That was a 30-0 game, and it didn't look particularly good. I mean, that's what happens when a quarterback gets thrust into the situation. But this kid was able to handle it. Not just handle it, settle the game down. And that is so important. Because, honestly, whether Matt Corral came back against Auburn or not, Luke Altmaier was going to lead Ole Miss to a touchdown that drive. They were running the ball. The games were being called differently. And also, there's something that we need to realize. Derek Mason's the defensive coordinator for Auburn and made his bones basically shutting down the Oregon system. So, he's good. And he's really good against spread offenses. And he's really good against tempo. I mean, that's how you start in. But when Luke Altmaier came into the game, it wrecked our tendencies just enough to where Auburn's defense was struggling. All of a sudden, we were running for gash plays. We were hitting the pop passes. We were doing all of that stuff. And it was because of our tendencies being broken and the conservative nature in which we were calling the game. I just wanted to put that out there. That was a defensive coordinator tuned into Ole Miss's tendencies Saturday night. To what they were going to do. To real similar to what Arkansas did in 2020 to make the RPOs all pass reads and then being back in a 3-deep shell. Wasn't quite drop 8. It was drop 7, drop 6 with a zone blitzer. But, I mean, it is what it is. Ole Miss kind of got out of practice. And Matt Corral being injured at like 50, 60% tops. 50 or 60% tops. It's kind of important to point out what's going on. A little bit easier to defend without those receivers, without Matt Corral being fully healthy. A little bit easier to defend. Now, where was Jerry and Ely? Well, it's because Snoop Connor and Henry Parrish played more because the RPOs that he was in for, they were pass reads. So Auburn was like, we're not going to let you run the ball. We're not going to let you run the ball. And we're going to give you reads to where you throw the ball to where we want you to throw it to. That's what happened with the Auburn game. So, let's do a little bit of press conference highlights. It's only a couple minutes long today. Casey Kelly, Henry Parrish, and somebody else. I forgot his name. Who was that? Anyway, we'll see in just a second. All right. Stick around, tune in for that. When we come back, we'll do a little look around the SEC. All right.
Yes, sir. I always kind of envision myself making plays. It's kind of one thing I do on my free time. Kind of just envision making those plays, lay in bed, and I'm like, okay, I do this play. Who I'm going to block? When am I going to catch the ball? Where in the void in the defense am I going to catch it? I kind of just envision myself making those plays, and then when you go out there, it's kind of like second nature because you've already done it so many times.
He has a great arm, good ability with his feet. We're trying to contain him and also make sure we stay in coverage. Make sure he doesn't get any deep shots that he wants or the run that he wants.
Coach Smith hop on the details every day. We have to keep progressing in that. So mainly just the details and the key points and where we need to be, where our eyes need to be, and just make the plays go.
Yeah, I know him well. When Chad was here and stuff, I would come in here when I would visit Chad, and obviously Chad would be in here all day and watching film, so I would hang out with them sometimes. But
Getting here, when I first came here, freshman year, I was excited and I was ready to come. Honestly, SEC, one of the first from my school and my community to do it, go straight SEC. It was a good transition until like mentally started messing with me. Then I had to leave, go to Northeast. Kept the same dog in me from SEC. Kept playing, balling, picked up good stacks. I had all my high school offers still, but it just was something about Ole Miss that made me want to come back to home.
Just lack of focus. We wasn't really locked into it as we should be. You have to be content with it, and it's something we do.
Yeah, if you look at what's going on, that was DeAndre Prince, by the way, is the other person. I just completely forgot that name. But you look at the players and what's going on. They're looking back a little bit, but they're starting to look a little bit forward. Now, I am not downplaying Liberty even in the slightest, but this is a team that lost to Louisiana Monroe. I've said over and over and over again, our run system is basically that Rich Rodriguez also uses. A lot of zones. I mean, it's crazy to think of. So Louisiana Monroe won as a 32-point underdog, so you should be able to run the ball on this team. And they're going to stack the line and do whatever they have to do, but you should be able to run the ball on this team. And I look forward to what's happening because the end of the season to still hit that special level, which would be 10 wins, require them to win out, which they can do, would be crazy important for this team. Now, it's a little bit of a risk because everybody's so banged up. And there's a chance something bad could happen Saturday, but there's always a chance something bad could happen Saturday. There's a chance that you could put Matt Corral out there on Saturday and he could actually get hurt. But those running backs, it's time to trust them a little bit. It's scheme up some different stuff for Jerry and Ely and then Henry Parrish and Snoop Connor and see which one's working. Just do 3 separate schemes for each back and see which one is working. And if you do that, you'll be in a place to where you can be successful against Liberty's defense. And it's going to open up the pass game for Luke Altmaier. But really commit to the run game this weekend. Now, everything I've said is hypothetical. There's a chance that Matt Corral is going to play and they're going to try and run Braylon Sanders out there again and Dontario Drummond. And hey, Stacy, I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. And it's just important to know this. I don't know if I've ever seen an offense as beat up as Ole Miss's as the moment. So it becomes a question. Do you put out a 60% player against Liberty, or do you let him rest and take a 4-star player and play in his place? Also, if the wide receivers are not performing as second stringers, we need to start looking at the young guys. You need to throw them in their trial by fire. I mean, those guys are elite players. They're talented. They're exactly what you want in that position. It's time to throw them to the wolves a little bit. You would rather that be against Liberty at home as opposed to against Texas A&M at night at home. A little bit different game there. But it is what it is. It absolutely is what it is. So, I've been talking all morning with several people that I'm in networks with, either the Willis Digital Media Network or the One Team Network. And we are building up to something pretty special. It's something that I am kind of leading on. And it is a way to get content to you. It's basically like the shotgun method of getting content to you. Not really going to tell you, not going to go into what we're going to do, but it would be after the new year. So by SEC conference basketball play, you should be good to go with seeing that. But for the next 2 months, we're going to beta test it and see what's going on. So basically what we want to do. most everybody, I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going on. They like to put content in silos. It's theirs. It's theirs. This is where the content goes. Well, my idea is something completely different, to where the content is all around that. And that bottle is really just a vessel for providing content, but it's everywhere. And we've been kind of sticking our toe in for the last month or so with echoing. And it's about time for us to try to take the next step. We are partnering with the Tide Talk guys, with Stacy, who's in the chat today. We are partnering with Jeb. We're partnering with Corey and all that as well. So that's going to be the foundation of those guys. And Jake Thomas and everybody, we're going to do a little foundational stuff. I'm going to talk to them tonight about this and get going. But over the next couple of months, we should try to do it. And the idea is, if you get enough people echoing shows inside of a network, anybody can sell ads on any show. And you just do shares by the people that are actually producing the show, and then you get a share as well. So if somebody's in Florida, they can make money on our show. They'll get a share of that. If they can sell it, whatever they want to do. But it just opens it up and becomes more of an open source type thing. So it's pretty cool. So I want to talk a little bit about go around the league. And actually, before we get started, I want to talk playoff rankings. And Georgia and Alabama are right where they need to be. Anybody complaining about Georgia and Alabama being 1 and 2, they don't know what they're talking about, and they're just talking about what they hope happened. But Georgia and Alabama should be 1 and 2, even though there was a loss. Michigan State should probably be 3. They probably got that right. Now, they put Oregon at 4 because Oregon beat Ohio State. Now, we'll see what happens here. One thing that I can take out of the playoff rankings is Cincinnati's not getting in. You looked at it, Cincinnati's done everything you would think they would ask a G5 to do. Cincinnati's 6. Now, Ohio State and Oregon, Michigan State, they probably have some chances to mess each other up. But Cincinnati is reminding me like TCU and Baylor from back in the day. I think it was 2014. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen, and they're going to be in that 5 and 6 range. Like if Oklahoma wins the game this weekend, they're probably going to jump Cincinnati. Just is what it is. The other thing to take away from this is the showing of the SEC between 10 and 20. Now, this is important for access bowls, the race for the Sugar Bowl. Auburn's in at 13. Auburn's going to drop another game. I mean, Auburn still has Alabama on their schedule. It is what it is. Texas A&M, they still have to go to Oxford. If they can get through Oxford, they have a chance to make a run. They're in prime position for the Sugar Bowl. And then you have Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Kentucky at 16, 17, and 18. First thought is the Egg Bowl is going to be fantastic this year. I can't wait for that. But the second thought is Mississippi State beat Kentucky, so they're ahead of Kentucky. Mississippi State's beat 3 ranked teams. Now they've also lost to LSU and Memphis and somebody else because the NC State game counts for them. But yeah, I don't see Auburn making it through that. If Ole Miss wasn't hurt, they were in the red zone 8 times. That was a game that Lane Kiffin freaked out a little bit. I don't have high hopes for Auburn this weekend. I think A&M could win this weekend by a couple touchdowns. But that is interesting looking at the playoff rankings. But the very initial thing is Cincinnati's done Oklahoma at 9-0 down at 8. Stacy brought that up in his things. They shouldn't be crazy about Oklahoma because they barely beat Kansas. And it is what it is. Now, if you look around the league, what I'm looking at today is there's certain games that are going to be fun, and that is not Missouri and Georgia. That is not Ole Miss and Liberty. But I'm interested in Texas A&M and Auburn. I'm interested in Tennessee and Kentucky. And for this to be an LSU-Alabama weekend, I'm not interested in that game. That's a game that Alabama's favored by 29, and they'll probably cover easily. Florida and South Carolina, they have the same record, but they're not the same team, so this could be a game that Florida wins by 3 touchdowns. Arkansas and Mississippi State could be interesting. Just because of the defense they play, maybe they found a way to replace Jalen Catalon, but you could see that Arkansas could get right against Mississippi State this weekend. This could be the end of their thing. And Tennessee could absolutely upset Kentucky. I'm not calling that straight up at the moment, but I am dangerously close to picking that game that way. Because Tennessee, I like the way Tennessee plays. And Kentucky just doesn't have an offense. Isn't that crazy? Everybody talked about coming in, the Liam Cohen and Will Levis and everything. They just don't have an offense. Ole Miss absolutely beat Arkansas multiple times. Absolutely. That missed 2-point conversion actually lost them multiple games after that. Whenever Ole Miss went 7 overtimes against Arkansas back in 2001 or 2002, whatever year it was. And Ole Miss was 6-1 going into that game. And Ole Miss lost the game. Matt Jones went crazy. Everybody remembers how that went. But Ole Miss lost like the next 3 games. They ended up finishing that season 7-4. So that was one of those games that just really sting. But we'll see if Tennessee can kind of bounce back after the Alabama game, because they were in that in the fourth quarter and just their depth just ate them up. But their offense is explosive. I like what Tennessee is doing. I genuinely do. I think Ole Miss is going to cover against Liberty. I think that line is criminally low. I think A&M is potentially a couple of touchdowns ahead of Auburn in this game. Georgia's favored by 38. I don't care. I expect them to cover. Arkansas is favored by 5. I don't know about that one. My pick isn't due until tonight, and I'm probably going to think on that. Kentucky's favored by 1. I like Tennessee straight up in that game. I'm going to go ahead and call that Tennessee straight up in that game. LSU is 28-point dogs to Alabama. Take Alabama and lay the points. I've seen this game. And Florida and South Carolina. Florida's favored by 18. South Carolina just doesn't have an offense. I expect Florida to shut them down pretty handily, and they're going to cover as well. So I'm going to probably give you a couple minutes back today because I'm such a nice guy. And I hope everybody tunes in tonight for SEC After Dark. We'll give our picks. We'll do all that we need to do, and we'll talk about what's going on a little bit. Remember, a 4th coming into the booth, Jake Thomas. Will be a 4 spot tonight on SEC After Dark. Tune in for that. And let's see, anything else? I hope everybody has a good time. We'll be doing the POMcast tomorrow. Thank you very much. And as always, hotty toddy.